Hello everyone, I'm Claudia Schmidt, also known as Selector Fencer. I'm an illustrator, character designer, and I work on my comics mostly full-time. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a fluffy, stylized wolf. Have fun! Start by drawing a triangle. Divide the triangle by drawing a vertical straight line down. This is your center of the face. Then draw an upside down triangle below the first one. It doesn't need to be perfect. Now draw two additional triangles on either side of the top triangle. Draw an edgy U shape slightly outside the bottom half triangle to outline the nose. Draw a line through the middle of your U. This will be your guide for the nose tip. Draw the nose by sketching something that looks like an open diamond shape, similar to the construction of the face itself. Draw a small curve at the bottom of the nose, then add an outward curve where your nose tip guide is to define the bridge of the nose. Do the same at the very top of the nose itself. Draw small circles inside the bottom half of the nose to define nostrils. Using the cross of the center as your guideline, let's define the bridge of the snout to give us some idea of the spacing of the eyes. Draw two triangles which are tilted upwards and curved at the bottom slightly. Let's go ahead and define the shape of the ears some more by creating curves on the inside triangles from the bottom to the tips of the ears. Add the mouth by drawing an upside down V. Then close the gaps between the ears and the head. That's the first part, which defines the shape of a typical wolf fluff. To start sculpting the neck fur, begin at the outside ear shape and mirror the outside triangle downward to create the guides for a fluffy neck to which we will add fur later. Draw circles into each of the eye sockets. Make sure that the circles touch the outline of the shapes too. Here you can decide how big you want the wolf's eyes to be. Play around with it and see which version you like best. I lower the opacity of my map to see better what I'm doing. I then added another triangle starting from the center of the eyeballs up to the middle of the forehead. This will add just slightly more depth and provides us with some direction for the fur later. And you now have your own wolf map. Alright, let's go ahead and start with the fun part, defining the face of the wolf. In this step you will draw around the wolf map, while the lines don't have to follow the guide strictly. If you're using traditional tools, I recommend you switching to something darker now, such as a fine liner or ink. I'm starting off by defining the curve of the eyes by drawing something like an arc. It's almost like a leaf. Make sure that the top eyelid isn't too round, but just very mildly flat, hugging the eyeball just a tiny bit. Instead of drawing one eye at a time, I want to make sure to mirror the most important steps, such as defining the wolf's curvy tear ducts. Draw black dots at the top of the eyeballs and play around with a tiny hint of a shadow above them to create some depth. Imagine the wolf's eye is like a glass marble, which is placed inside a small case. By adding curves below and above the eyes, I define cheekbones and the temples. Next, by drawing an S-curve that is going from the outer edge to the eye down to the outer edge of the larger triangle, I create the first overhang of fur surrounding the facial area. I then draw the nose by starting off drawing a line at the very top down, over the tip and further down where the nostrils are. Here I swirl around to create the nostril, the so-called alar fold. But don't worry so much about my movement of the brush here. You can as well start by filling out the circles inside the nose. Now close the shape of the nose by drawing two curves which meet the middle end, looking like a leaf almost. That's the part which turns dog noses into heart shapes ever so often. Follow the lines of the face map and complete the lines for the nose just like so. Then, to give more depth to the face, I draw two thin lines beginning from the sides of the nose into the direction of the forehead. This is the nose bridge, or the sniffer tunnel. I then draw the snout and the lips and the chin, all by following the guidelines below. For the top of the snout I decided to make it a little more puffy. Remember, your drawing doesn't need to strictly hug the lines of the map below. Next, I'm adding the ears by drawing them slightly wider and rounder. Notice that only the tip of the ear meets the tip of the triangle below. It helped me see their approximate height. I think it's time to add some simple fluff to it. You can play around in this part, add smaller tufts or bigger ones. By drawing quick strokes, I add fur between the ears, connecting them to the head and hiding them in more fluff. That's the first part of fluff done. Let's move on to the bigger areas such as the cheeks and neck fur. You can play around in this area by varying your strokes in either bigger or smaller tufts. Usually the neck fluff is very dense and not as separated as mine, but it gives you a great freedom to play around with. I'm really enjoying just going wild with the neck fur and adding thickness by adding bigger or smaller tufts. The more you go inside the center of the face, the smaller the hair strokes will be. I realized that one side of my wolf was slightly off and too unfluffy in comparison to the other side, so I used a lasso tool to select and drag the part more to the left side. If you work digitally, you can do this with any area of your drawing if you feel unsatisfied with it. Just play around and go wild. Now I'm adding even more bits of hairs and fur to give the face some more wolfish liveliness. I felt that my version of the face was slightly too long, so I selected the top half and moved it down a bit. I believe it complements the white neck fluff so much more. But of course, wolves all come in so many shapes and sizes and there's no one strict rule or single recipe to draw a wolf. But I hope this is a good start for you. And that's our wolf drawing done. If you're one of those who gets easily carried away too, why not add some color? I usually start off by selecting the shape of my drawings via the lasso tool in Photoshop and fill in the base color, which is usually very earthy and muted. From there I work my way up from the darker tones to the highlights, sculpting my way through the picture. This part can be very relaxing or even more exciting for you to explore, especially if you decide to go beyond the boundaries of your line art and paint on top of it later. Also, you can add markings of your liking, give any fur color you can think of, any eye color or shading. But most importantly, go wild and have fun with the process. I'm very excited to be here and share a bit of my knowledge with you. What's even more exciting, however, is seeing your own version of the wolf. Thanks a lot for watching and see you around.